The Hard Count is presented by BetMGM. As y'all know by now, we've teamed up with BetMGM this college football season. We'll be using their lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for all of you each week. Now, when you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, use bonus code HARDCOUNT, and you'll get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code HARDCOUNT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. Step 3, you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code HARDCOUNT when you sign up. Let's make this college football season 1 for the books. Let's make it legendary. Let's get to the show. Welcome into the Hard Count, the show for college football fans that understand 10-2 makes you feel good about your chances to make the college football playoff. But hey, this year's rules are not last year's rules. 10-2 does not guarantee you anything. We'll break it all down. Glad to have you a part of this. It is Thursday, November 13th, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. As always, you already know it, baby. Presented by BetMGM. We got some action. We're on this upcoming weekend. If you want to make sure you have those picks from us, go ahead and subscribe to the channel because we'll have our full picks video for you out tomorrow. But I want to do what I just said we were going to do here a moment ago, or I alluded to us doing here, the 10-2 madness that we have here in the college football world. There's a storm brewing, okay? And there's 12 spots. And a lot of teams that think if they go 10-2, they have a good chance at getting in. And they're not wrong, but you're not guaranteed a spot at 10-2 this year. So I want to go team by team here and unpack what different teams' prospects are should they finish with 10 wins and 2 losses. Not all 10-2s are created equal. All right, we will get to that in a matter of moments. Before we do that, though, let's start with a voicemail from one of y'all. If you haven't yet accessed the Hard Count voicemail box, now's the time. 629-888-3931. Hit us with your college football playoff hypotheticals. Hit us with your takes. Hit us with your predictions. All that in a bag of chips again, 629-888-3931. Have one of y'all calling as an Auburn fan, praying on the downfall of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Go ahead and listen to this.
Hey, man. I want to start out with being an Auburn fan might be the hardest thing one can endure in this lifetime. And after years and years of this, it's brought me to think, the optimism in me. Is there a way in which Alabama can miss out on the playoff? And I'm thinking, yes. I mean, they have Oklahoma remaining on their schedule, a very losable game. When the lights are brightest, we see who can really stand tall. And then they've got Auburn after that. And, anything can happen in the Iron Bowl, especially when Jordan-Hare is haunted. So that's my what if of the week. Thanks, JD.
Yeah, first, I respect you just being upfront about this whole thing. Listen, I'm an Auburn fan. Things have not been good for us this year. So what do I do when I don't have a lot to root for with my Tigers? I root for the downfall of my rival in Alabama. I hear what you're saying. And also, I think the point you're making is in itself valid. It could happen. The kind of quarterback that Kalen DeBoer has lost to over the course of his short career in Tuscaloosa is exactly what John Mateer brings to the table. Mobile, design quarterback, run stuff, ad-lib stuff. They lost to Oklahoma a year ago to Alabama. And Jackson Arnold, God bless him, he's now an Auburn Tiger, was playing quarterback for Oklahoma in that spot and ran roughshod over Alabama. Also, Alabama has not been great against the run this year. Then you fast forward the tape, if you do lose that game to Oklahoma, you fast forward the tape to the end of the year. And listen, man, weird things happen in Jordan-Hare. Weird things happen when Alabama plays that final game in Jordan-Hare against Auburn. Okay, like Brian Harsin almost got the better of a Bryce Young-led Alabama team. Anything can happen. Anything can happen in that game. So while I see where you're coming from, and it's not the most ridiculous statement in the world, especially in the college football 2025 season that has been the epitome of chaos, to see more chaos coming from the Crimson Tide, I'm not buying it, and here's why. I trust Alabama's character. I do. If they lose one of those games, whether it be to Oklahoma or in your situation here, you're probably rooting for a loss to Auburn, I don't think they lose both. The reason why, we've already seen Alabama slip up. We've seen them slip up. They slipped up the very first game of the regular season, and we're sitting here in the month of November, and we still got Ty Simpson delivering promos post-game on the field, talking to Molly McGrath about, no, we remember week 1. We remember Florida State. We remember how that felt. We know we're human. We've tasted our own blood. We've had a failing of sorts. We're not going to let that happen again. So just go ahead and imagine this world where Bama does lose to Oklahoma. You think they're rolling into Jordan Hare and taking that game lightly? It is joyless murder ball and then some. It is joyless murder ball plus if Alabama were to find Auburn in Jordan Hare with their college football playoff hopes on the line for Alabama. Not saying you wouldn't get Auburn's best shot. That's already a given with it being a rivalry weekend and with it being at Jordan Hare. But I'm just telling you, the character of Alabama we see time and time again show up over the course of this season. Now, there is a nasty rumor running rampant on Bama Online, the Alabama Author message board, that your boy is just like habitually picked against Alabama, which I don't know where that came from. I've picked against Bama twice this year. Once against Georgia, was wrong. Once against Missouri, was also wrong. But here's the thing. Alabama, the reason why I picked them to lose to Missouri, because that spot was weird. And it hasn't just been that spot. The reason why I haven't picked against Alabama since that Missouri game is because seeing them handle that spot gave me confidence they would handle other spots equally well. Because that game, noon kick, we keep talking about the weird vibes in Columbia, Missouri, and they're doing construction on the north end zone, and you already had an emotional win the week before. I believe it was over Vanderbilt. And so you're like, man, can Bama get up for that spot? They did, and then every spot after, the Tennessee game. You lost a year ago. They come to you this year. Handle it. The LSU game, frisky LSU team with an interim head coach. Did they come out with some juice? You handle it. A couple weeks ago, you got homecoming, mobile quarterback Lenora Sellers. You're playing at South Carolina, a tough place to play. Handle it. So I think Alabama has proven with their character they're going to continue to step up to the plate and handle it. So if you tell me they lose one of these games, I want to be overwhelmingly surprised. I'd be surprised. I'm going to pick Bama probably to win all these games here finishing out. I've already picked them to beat Oklahoma. But I don't see a world where Alabama loses to both Oklahoma and Auburn. They're too high character for that. Well, maybe you're pushing back and saying, hang on, JD. Hang on. Alabama, they're not great against the run. They're not great running the football. You've said it yourself during multiple previews. They're allowing 4.5 yards a carry. If you can't run the football in the SEC, it's only a matter of time before you get beat, right? Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But in today's modern college football, in the context of this 2025 season, everyone's got weaknesses. Nobody's acne-free, man. We're all trying to put on the proactive and do the exfoliating scrub and take care of our weaknesses as best we can. But to me, this season, especially in the SEC, it's about your strengths. It's about when it comes down to that final round of the game, fourth quarter, final play, whatever kind of situation you want to put on it, what are your strengths and how much do you trust those strengths? How strong are your strengths? The strength for Alabama is number 15, Ty Simpson. And when the cards are stacked, when it comes down to that final card to throw down, Alabama's got the ace of spades. Period, mic drop, the end. Doesn't matter how many yards they allowed that day. They allowed 200 yards on the ground to Georgia and won that game. Why? Because Ty Simpson was freaking unconscious on third down. Something like 13 of 17 on third down for Alabama. It's ridiculous stuff. He does not, knock on wood here, make a bad play. Does he have plays like to have back? Sure. But he's not going to make that big mistake that sends Bama home with tissues and tears. Like, Bama's not going to have that kind of a situation, I believe, here throughout the rest of the regular season, so long as number 15 is pulling the trigger here for you. Now, we're not doing this segment, but I almost decided to do this segment earlier on in the week. I'm going to have a very difficult time picking anyone over Alabama that's not named A&M and not named Ohio State. And even then, we'll assess the context and the matchups. I'm not telling you I would pick A&M or Ohio State over Alabama. I'm just saying those are the only two teams that I look at and say, yeah, they could really probably go toe-to-toe with Ty Simpson in terms of the quarterback duel stuff. Outside of that, dude, Ty Simpson's just a machine. He's the Tyborg, as we've talked about many times. So to answer your question here, I appreciate where you're coming from. I think college football, in a bizarre way, is almost at its best when it's a little bit toxic, so I appreciate you bringing that to the table here, brother, but I do not, unfortunately, for you at least, see Alabama dropping a game to Oklahoma and Auburn and missing the playoff. Could it happen? Anything can happen, but I don't think that's going to happen this year, and if it does, we will obviously talk about that if we find ourselves in that situation. Okay, so today's show, man, we're going to attack the 10-2 chaos that is potentially in play here this college football season. I'm going to give you my thoughts on a bunch of these different teams that could maybe find themselves at 10-2 at the end of the regular season. And then our very own Caden Smith will also jump in here and give his take, and we'll have a good discussion back and forth on this whole landscape that we're dealing with right now in the college football playoff. Important disclaimer. We are only unpacking teams that currently have 2 losses. So if Texas runs the table, they go 10-2, obviously that would probably leave Georgia with, you would like to think, a 10-2 record should they end up beating Georgia Tech. But I'm not going to do the whole thing, well, Texas beat Georgia, so they're 10-2, and so is Texas. And we're not going to do that. We're just addressing the teams that already have 2 losses. You're in do-or-die mode. What is the confidence level? What is the situation you find yourself in when it comes to making the college football playoff? So I just referred to it. What if Texas goes 10-2, man? The thing with Texas, if they do find a way to finish this season with wins over Georgia and A&M and get to that 10-win mark, that is the scariest 10-2 in college football. No other discussion has to be had there. The scariest 10-2. And the thing with Texas, they control their own destiny. So if you beat Georgia and A&M, not only is it impressive, but you also find yourself in Atlanta if you're Texas and Arch Manning and co. And it's awesome because you have momentum and all those things, and you got big wins over good teams. But just zoom out for a second. Think about what Texas would be looking like if they do find a way to beat Georgia and A&M. Because the Georgia game's in Athens. So think about like the emotional composure, the competitive character, all those things that Texas would be possessing to get a win like that. Think about what we saw Texas do in the shoe week 1 and how much they lacked those things. Okay, so we're seeing the growth there. Think about the defense, the way they're eating lunches if you beat A&M and Georgia. Like Georgia and A&M, I think, are the 2 most dynamic offenses definitely in the SEC. You could argue in college football, depending on how you feel about Indiana and Ohio State. If you're beating both those teams, your defense is showing up. Okay, so Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, we are causing problems, as you have all year long, but you think you'd probably take it even to another level should you find yourself at 10-2. And then Arch Manning, if you go 10-2, it means he's probably the guy that Warby Parker signed up for with an NIL deal. Same guy that Red Bull signed up for. And like, this is the Arch Manning we all thought we were going to get at SEC Media Days. Now, we were always living in this world of, we think Arch is going to be good. We think he's probably going to be great by November. Well, Arch, it's November. Threw for over 300 yards against Vanderbilt, over 300 yards against Mississippi State. Dare I say it, Arch is rounding into really good form. Now, can you carry that over, though, against these opponents? Because I think the thing that I'm looking at with Arch that gives me a little bit of wait-and-see mode with the guy is, what do you do when you're in another big-time spot? Because as much as I think Mississippi State's a good football team and Vanderbilt's a good football team, the psychology of those logos, if I'm Arch Manning, doesn't scare me. Like, I am programmed, if I'm Arch Manning, or as an SEC fan in general, to look at Vanderbilt and not feel any sense of anxiety. Same deal with Mississippi State. Same deal with Kentucky. And Kentucky wasn't a great showing for Texas, but you found a way. Shout out Ryan Niblett. But again, going back to what they would look like, if you find a way to beat Georgia and A&M, Arch is swinging a hot bat, y'all. All right? Arch may not be that same guy we saw the first couple of weeks of the season. He's seeing it. He's confident. He's letting it rip. Talking about the concussion helped him maybe. I don't know. We'll see. That's what Arch is saying. So I don't know if that's any truth to that. You also probably found a way to run the football. I don't think you beat Georgia and A&M running for like 45 yards or whatever Texas has made a habit of doing over the course of the last month or so across their schedule. Now, here's the most important thing. You get to the SEC championship game at 10-2 if you're Texas. We've established that. And if you win the SEC, you get a bye. Awesome. Competitors want prizes. The prize here is a bye. I promise you, everyone in Austin would say, yes, we want a bye. However, if you're hot enough to beat Georgia and A&M, I'm like, man, y'all can keep the bye. We want to keep playing ball because whatever we're doing right now, it's working. We're running hot. We're a problem. Texas at that level of momentum with Arch, with the defense, with the run game, with the weapons, like they're not only in the college football playoff, Texas is a freaking problem if they fight and scratch and claw and find their way into this field of 12. So they were at number 10 in those rankings that we got on Tuesday. But if they go 10-2, they will be a lot higher than 10. I'll tell you that right now. I'd be surprised if they got a bye just for playing in the SEC championship game. I don't think that's on the table with 2 losses, but we'll see what the committee says here. Cato, Texas at 10-2. If they get to that, you're just like, okay, all bets are off with what Texas would be at that point in time. True or untrue?
Very true. I think it's funny because they're the team that out of these 2 lost teams we're going to talk about today kind of controls their own destiny the most. But the reason they control that destiny is because their schedule is so difficult the remainder of the season. Yeah. Like, you could get 2 of the best wins in the country in the next 3 weeks. Obviously, playing for a SEC title, I don't think there's ever going to be a universe, no matter how big or small the playoff gets moving forward, to where the SEC title participants aren't in the conference or aren't in the college football playoff. So they're in a good spot for sure. It's just about how does this fan base feel about this team going up against these two teams. You mentioned Arch Manning, 2 straight weeks, finally playing some really good ball, 300-yard games, just in time for your defense to stop showing up. I mean, you gave up 30-plus points in both of those games. And it's like, of course, like that. If I was a Texas fan, I'd be pulling my hair out just because the defense has been foundation of the team. They held Ohio State to 14 points to start the year, which seems like such a far cry now to what the Buckeyes look like. Next thing you know, you're giving up now 21 points in the fourth quarter to Vanderbilt is kind of its own thing. But still, Mississippi State moving up and down the field, you finally kind of locked it up at the end of the game so you could pull that out. But I'd be very curious this weekend to see the Arch versus defense dynamic of it. And they haven't been playing like great complementary football all year, but the last 2 weeks they've been doing just enough to get those wins, and the defense has been timely enough at the right time, and Arch has been doing his thing at the right time. If they can beat Georgia and just have some combination of complementary ball where you don't need Arch to be a superstar or your defense to be a superstar, but they can both do it at the right time, run the ball at the right time, I think that'd be really interesting. So if they beat Georgia, I think their fan base has a lot more confidence going into a rivalry game where rivalry week, the records are out the window, some would say, and you're just playing ball, dropping the ball. And yeah, man, we'll see. But Texas, they're in a good spot, but they're not in a good spot per se because they are playing hard teams. But wins against those hard teams get you to where you want to go as far as the playoff.
And it's funny because the eye test discussion we're having with some of these other teams like a Notre Dame, like an Oklahoma, that's all out the window for Texas. 9-3, maybe you have some things break your way and you backdoor your way into the playoff. I personally wouldn't bank on that. So it's like Texas, you're either playing for the conference championship at 10-2, or you're sitting at home watching everyone else play in the college football playoff while you're eating a bag of Doritos. Like, that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah, I will say, though, if they can win, I think if they win regardless this weekend, they will jump Notre Dame in the rankings. Can they win in a way where they could maybe jump Oregon? I don't think so. But I think that there's not a ton of flexibility right now. Obviously, we're about to talk about a ton of 10-2 teams.
Sure.
But with the head-to-head over Oklahoma kind of keeping them there, if they can keep a better record than Oklahoma, and maybe you see some of these teams around them in the rankings lose, it could get interesting for Texas. But, I mean, losing to Ohio State by that score is pretty commendable. The Florida toe stub is not great for any resume, but a win over Georgia or a win over A&M is great. But I think despite A&M being ranked higher, a win over Georgia now could maybe put them ahead in the rankings to where they won't go back any further.
Yeah.
And then maybe you play a close one to A&M and you don't move in the rankings or something like that, just depending on how other stuff pans out. But it all starts this weekend for them for sure between the hedges, and God, I'm excited for that game. It would just be poetic for us all to count out Arch, and then he's playing his best ball at the end of the year, and this is the version of him we can get accustomed to this year and beyond. And I mean, the most Cinderella ending ever would be if they just ran the table the rest of the year, made the playoff, and all of a sudden Arch is a dude. So can't rule that out, but that'd be great for the plot and for the Longhorns, obviously.
Sark's 0-2 against Kirby, Arch on the road, tough to win in Athens, and then Arch just bosses up. Hey, little Michael Laffy Taffy potentially expected to play here, I believe, or at least they're feeling better about his potential to play against Georgia. Maybe you boost the defense. Just the overall way you would see yourself, too, if you're Texas. If you could go into Athens and get a win against Kirby, I think the juices that you would have flowing all the way into the A&M game where they got to come to you. All right, Texas. All right, here we go.
Yeah, man, it all starts this weekend, and that complimentary ball is what I'm watching for sure. None of this matters if just your defense or just Arch shows up or vice versa. So we'll see, man. It's going to be a great one between the hedges nonetheless.
Cogs got to mesh. Got to mesh. Well, Texas, they own that head-to-head over Oklahoma, which they're feeling pretty good about now. But, Cato, let's say Oklahoma finds their way into 10-2, and Oklahoma does not control their own destiny. They were ranked number 11 in those most recent college football playoff rankings. They're blocked by Texas, like I mentioned. But if they get a win over Alabama, man, I think the thought if you're an Oklahoma fan is, all right, what is Notre Dame doing? Because if Notre Dame gets 10-2 and you're sitting there at 10-2, if you're Oklahoma, it becomes a beauty contest in my estimation. Now, unfortunately, as of right now, Notre Dame sitting at the 9 spot. You're at the 11 spot. Does a win over Alabama change that? That's what it comes down to, I think, for me when we discuss Oklahoma and the comparison of them making the college football playoff and getting to 10-2. It's going to come down to a bunch of people in a room saying, no, we think Oklahoma is better than Notre Dame. Is I think what it's going to come down to if you're trying to find your way into the college football playoff. I think Oklahoma, though, has two things working for them in terms of their aspirations to make this field of 12. Should they finish 10-2, the timing of their wins. Listen, I just told you, 12 people in a room, 5 different people in the room from last year's group, just food for thought there. We all can say, the timing of the wins, the timing of the losses doesn't matter. That's a lie. I understand you got to put it in the rule book. I understand you got to say that's how you're doing things. But when the memory of a win at Tennessee and a win at Alabama is freshly in the mind of the committee, you can't tell me they're not weighting that in some way, shape, or form. So the timing of the wins, I think, will be huge. Also, the way those losses are aging here for OU. Hey, Texas, never want to lose in Red River, but Texas, should they find a way to, beat Georgia? Beat A&M. If they can just win one of those two, if you're Oklahoma, okay, thank you, Texas, for making that loss look better. Also, by the way, you losing means that we get to jump y'all, so we'll hat tip you on the way out of there. And then the loss to Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to be a college football playoff team. Now, that's very dangerous to say definitive things during the month of November before these games happen through rivalry weekend. But you hear what I'm saying. So I think weirdly, Oklahoma's actually pretty well positioned should they beat Alabama to make the college football playoff. Because you talk about the potential of a 10-2 Vandy. Does that play into account here at all? You both lost to Texas, but Bama beat Vandy, and Oklahoma would beat Bama. So that common opponent discussion, and also Oklahoma already being ranked ahead of them, I think helps. And, Texas sitting there ahead of you, they got to play, we just discussed, 2 top 5 teams down the stretch here. I just need you to lose to one of those. I don't think Texas will be favored in either of those games. Again, I think Texas 10-2 is in, and they're blocking you, so maybe you find a way to get grouped in there if you can jump Notre Dame at 10-2. But in a weird way, I kind of think Oklahoma's in a somewhat decent spot when it comes to getting into the playoff at 10-2. Now, as a college football fan, I just want to say this. I would love to. This is the analyst hat off. This is the on-3 name tag off. This is all that. I personally, just as a fan of college football, I would love so much to see playoff John Mateer. I would love it because he strikes me as a guy, you get him into that field of 12, get him at a home game in Norman or get him on a away game at wherever, you pick the spot. This team, I think, would find a different gear. Now, I don't have any analysis for you, anything to point to as to why that would be the case, but I go back to the Tennessee game. I go back to him coming on the show post-Tennessee. He's like, yeah, man, we just made a decision as a locker room. We had one of our coaches call us out, and we decided, all right, line drawn in the sand, here we go now. We're going to find a way in Neyland. And so if you got find a way Oklahoma finding their way into the playoff, I wouldn't want to play them round 1. That's all I'll say. I think the run game of John Mateer, the more that he gets more healthy, strains your defense. I think those weapons, having less attention on them with more attention to the box, if you get Mateer run game going as well, it would be a very tricky first-round draw should Oklahoma find their way in. So if you beat Alabama, I'd be pretty confident you catch a break or two your way and you get into the college football playoff at 10-2. Cato, Oklahoma not controlling their own destiny. I want to make that very clear. Not controlling their own destiny. But if they go 10-2, it's a beauty contest with Notre Dame. The more I sit with it, the more I'm thinking about them beating Alabama and the way that would just change the optics around Oklahoma since the Ole Miss loss. It'd be the timing of those wins with Tennessee and Bama would be tough to ignore if you're the committee.
Yeah, JD, and I didn't realize how good of a position Oklahoma's actually in until you kind of broke it down. This was a team that coming into the season, we said them in Florida, just based on their schedule alone, would be worthy of college football playoff consideration just based on how hard their schedule was if they went 9-3. What's changed about that since now? Michigan win, Texas, you played South Carolina, you played Ole Miss, you played Tennessee, played Alabama. Missouri has a quarterback injury. LSU isn't the same. South Carolina probably in that boat too. But this is still probably one of the more impressive resumes you could put up at 10-2 if they went out. And I think what really works in their favor, them and Texas this weekend are both 5.5-point underdogs. But I think Oklahoma is going to be favored in their next 2 games, hosting Missouri, hosting LSU, versus a Texas team that will be an underdog in 2 of their last 3 with the A&M game there as well. If they went out and Texas loses one game, like you said, you're in a great spot. I think another thing that works in their advantage too, this is the same committee. Well, not the same committee, but we know that.
Same committee, yeah.
Well, I'm talking about for the last 14 playoff.
Yeah.
They heavily considered Jordan Travis injury. Hey, like, sorry, Florida State, you're not making the dance. It's no secret that Oklahoma's 2 losses, or Red River, where John Mateer didn't look like himself with his hand, and then 2 weeks later against Ole Miss, where he, again, was still fighting those rumors and allegations that he's not looking the same with that thumb injury. Looked pretty good against Tennessee. Looked more like his old self in the second half of that game. If he looks fully like himself and it's pretty clear this guy's healthy against Alabama and the rest of the season, I think those 2 losses might even lose some weight. They're not looked at the same way if we consider the human committee we have now that looks like they're making more eye judgments and just watching ball judgments. We all know John Mateer wasn't healthy those 2 losses. Like, we watched the ball, and if they look healthy, he looks healthy to close out the season. I think that also works in their favor, especially against some of these other teams we're going to talk about here that might not even have as impressive losses, you could say.
And I believe you said this on the show at the end of last week, or maybe it was early this week. If you get Oklahoma in the college football playoff, the decision of just like, no, we're not going to lose. No, actually, we decided together. We put it to a vote. We all decided no more losing for Oklahoma. If that's a real trait and a real thing for them, dude, first round they maybe draw Ole Miss. Should they be at the 10th spot? Maybe they draw Texas Tech if they're the 11th spot. Like, I would not want to play Oklahoma is my point there.
No, if John Mateer's healthy, you don't want to play this team. They went into Neyland, made a decision that they were going to die, or like they're going to die for it. Like they were fully willing to put their bodies on the line, and they did that. We talk about that game ad nauseum that week. Like, it felt like Tennessee was just going to pull away eventually, but like Oklahoma's not letting go of that rope. And it's very easy to hold on to a rope too if you have a healthy thumb. So I think John Mateer's thumb, if he's looking like first quarter of this Alabama game, man, if he's looking like John Mateer that we saw against Michigan and some of those other big moments early in the season, man, like, I think it'd be all of a sudden we have a case on top of their 10-2 case that, hey, maybe this team's undefeated, maybe just 1 loss if this guy's thumb is healthy the entire season. I think that could also work in their favor with the narratives.
And that Michigan win could keep aging well. We'll talk about them in a second, but I think it's a great point, Cato. I think it's a great point, man. Oklahoma, got to feel halfway decent about your chances. Maybe even better than halfway decent if you can beat Alabama. So we will obviously keep a pulse on that. Now, probably the poster child for 10-2 right now, we've been talking about being 10-2 really since they lost to A&M, is Notre Dame. All right, now Notre Dame, in my estimation, they don't control their own destiny, but they control their own destiny as much as you can without controlling your own destiny, if that makes sense. We'll unpack it all together right now. Make sure you're subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Massive game this weekend for Notre Dame. Going to Pitt. College Game Day going to be there. Our very own Zach Herbstreit, who's sitting behind me, going to be there. So make sure you're locked in. We'll have a reaction for you after that. But if you want to get to the game, maybe you're in Pittsburgh. Maybe you're a Notre Dame fan just thinking about making the trip out to this one, and you want to buy tickets. The best way to do that, hear me clearly, Game Time. All right, Game Time, fast, easy, safe, effective, affordable way to buy tickets. I keep stressing this because I think it's the best feature they have, or my favorite feature they have, rather. You can see the view from your seat before you purchase the ticket. Also, you can buy tickets like last minute. You get to Pittsburgh and just there for the weekend to kind of hang around the game and be around the game, but then you see those ticket prices start to drop closer to game time. You're like, okay, I'm locked in. I'll buy a ticket. You can track that in real time using the Game Time app. So if you hear nothing else, hear this. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, okay? Create an account and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Get to the freaking game with Game Time, all right? Appreciate y'all being boots on the ground using Game Time, and appreciate Game Time bringing y'all the show today. So here's my thing with Notre Dame, to elaborate on what I just said. Not controlling destiny, but control destiny as much as you can without actually having 2 hands on the wheel there. They're ranked at 9 in those second playoff rankings, rather. Reason why that's important. If you're any lower than 10, you're probably not getting into the college football playoff because one of those spots will go to the highest ranked G5 champ, and then probably the ACC will have a spot in there as well. So the cutoff is probably 10. Notre Dame was at 9 in those most recent rankings. So you have a spot cushion between you and the death zone. The reason why that's important, if we were talking about Notre Dame trying to claw their way back into these rankings or claw their way into the top 10, there's not as much meat on the bone to do that. But the committee's already saying, hey, we think Notre Dame's pretty good. All you got to do, Notre Dame, again, hypothetically speaking here, is handle your business in an impressive enough fashion to make us not change our opinion on you. Now, you just got gifted this Pitt game, dude. Notre Dame fans, I know you see where I'm coming from. Not to knock Pitt, but like Pitt being ranked, if Notre Dame goes out there and blows the doors off of everybody, I think it's going to be hard to leave them out. Now, the beauty contest stuff I just mentioned with Oklahoma and their chances to impress the committee and Texas to jump you in the committee, like that makes me a little bit nervous. There's a lot that should scare you if you're Notre Dame here. To go back to the not controlling your own destiny side of things. What I just said, Texas beating Georgia and A&M, they would jump you. Now, I don't know if they'd jump you to the point where you get bumped out, but also, guess what? That creates 10-2 Georgia. 10-2 Georgia probably holds the resume advantage over Notre Dame. Oklahoma, if they beat Alabama, Alabama falls to 10-2. Oklahoma's at 10-2. That makes me more nervous. Miami having the head-to-head, too, with them being at 15, makes you nervous. The Big 12, what do you get 2 teams in from there? BYU and Texas Tech. Pick one of those teams. One's a one-loss conference champion. One's a team that has one loss in the regular season. Conference champion, runner-up. Like, there's a lot here that would make me nervous. But here's my thing. If you can just make your 10-2 look as impressive as possible, and I'm not talking like, hey, we won by 7 against Pitt, or hey, we won by 7 against Samford and Syracuse. Like, do not give the committee a reason to have a conversation about you. Make them regret they put you at 9 in these college football playoff rankings because that is too high for them to drop you multiple spots if you win every game by 40 the rest of the way. One of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans. There's a great quote in that movie. He says, run it up, leave no doubt. Marcus Freeman, run it up, leave no doubt. Because I think if you win every game by 40, that discussion is going to be really awkward to approach in that room of 12 people. Well, hey, I know we had Notre Dame at 9 a couple weeks ago, but, a couple other teams look good too. Dog, they won by 40. How are we supposed to drop them? That's the conversation you want to create here if you're Notre Dame. How are we supposed to drop them? And I think the good thing for Notre Dame, they're sort of finding their offensive footing, it feels like to me, at the right time. The way that C.J. Carr seems to be more comfortable pushing the football downfield. The cosign he got from Tom Brady should count for something with what they think of his game right now. Just keep on applying pressure, Notre Dame. Keep on scoring points. Don't give us the hypothetical reason to say, well, if they played this team on a neutral site, how would it look? No, they beat everyone by 40. That's kind of the approach here that I think you have to have if you're Notre Dame. So my thesis is 10-2 could get you left out if it looks the wrong way. 10-2 could get you in if it looks the right way. My feeling is we're doing this whole exercise of talking about 10-2 teams and the chaos that would ensue and what happens if everyone's 10-2. The reality is not everyone's going to be 10-2. The likelihood is, the forecast is, there is a smaller percentage chance of us having a 10-2 logjam than this making sense at the end. So the fact that Notre Dame's at 9, I think you got to feel excited about. But, I mean, you grab that thing with 2 hands, you don't let go, and you score as many points as freaking possible so you don't make it a conversation on Selection Sunday. Cato, Notre Dame, I think, is the most interesting team in this whole discussion of going 10-2 as it stands right now. They're kind of the vibes guy of the college football playoff. You got to give good vibes here to finish out the regular season. The Pitt game's huge. What do you think of the Irish here down the stretch, brother?
Yeah, first I want to say I had the take earlier in the year that this is the most fun team to root for because you have to, as a result of them starting off the year 0-2, root for a bunch of chaos and upsets and teams losing. That's been epitomized by like what we have in store for the rest of the season and where it stands with Notre Dame. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you are actively rooting against Texas and Oklahoma. Like you have to have those teams lose because the committee's already said, hey, like as it stands right now, we think you're better than these 2 teams. We have you at 9, then we have them at 10 and 11. Wins this weekend, though, I think jump them. I think if Texas gets a win over Georgia, I think they jump Notre Dame. Same with Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma, if they beat Alabama, that gives them room to jump. But outside of that, I don't see many teams behind Notre Dame in the rankings that will have the opportunity to do that. Like if BYU gets a win over a ranked Cincinnati team here in 2 weeks, I don't think that's enough to jump Notre Dame. And I think, again, that's the committee saying that already by having a 2-loss Notre Dame ahead of a 1-loss BYU. Utah, same thing. You already have 2 losses. They don't think you're better than Notre Dame. Vanderbilt, they don't think that either, clearly, because they have them still. Notre Dame's ahead of Vanderbilt despite them both having 2 losses. And then after that's a Miami who you won your head-to-head with. So they're right now, like Notre Dame fans, of course, take care of your business this weekend against Pitt. But Texas and Oklahoma, I think, are the top teams to watch, man, and you want to root on their downfall bad because, like you mentioned, any of those teams win this weekend, not only do they potentially jump you in the rankings, but teams ahead of you in the rankings as well will drop down to 2 losses, and now you're getting compared to those teams. I think Notre Dame has a case against any 10-2 team that could possibly exist out of this field of teams at the top, except for SEC teams, just because these SEC teams, their losses are probably on par, if not better, than what you're working with the A&M and Miami loss. And they're just rigor of their schedule playing each other. I think you can give them the case that, okay, sure, we both have 2 losses, can measure the merit of those losses however you want. But at the end of the day, we went to Death Valley. We played Alabama. We played Texas. Like, whatever the case is for any of those teams, week in and week out, I think the schedule is just harder to where it puts Notre Dame at a tough spot compared to the SEC teams. Everyone else, I think they're good, but Notre Dame fans close on the SEC and hoping for favorites to win the rest of the way, I think, because they're in a good spot on the fringe, and it can only get better if you get some more 3-loss teams around you in the rankings.
I'm fascinated to see if we get a 10-2 Vandy and a 10-2 Notre Dame.
That's a tough one, yeah.
Because I think if you swapped their spots and said, Notre Dame, you're outside looking in, put you at 13, 14 spot, right where Vandy is, you put Vandy in the top 10, like I kind of would almost have the same discussion we're having now. Neither team really has that much left on their schedule to go and like, prove a point. Like, Vandy's going to play a ranked Tennessee, which is a spot back from where Pitt is right now.
In Neyland,
so maybe that gives you some juice. But, yeah, it's the fact they're at 9 right now makes it so interesting. If they were trying to claw into that top 10, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't feel great, Notre Dame. But the fact that you're already top 10 right now, I don't know. That's a tricky spot.
That's the thing. Like, I thought about the Vandy case against a Notre Dame, but they're at 14. So it's like the committee has already said, you're Notre Dame, we think you're 4 or 5 better teams, better than Vanderbilt, and y'all have the same record right now. So does a win over Tennessee bump you up that many spots? No. But what does is the losses to Texas, losses to Oklahoma, all of a sudden those teams drop out. And maybe Vanderbilt's closer to your heels, but I think just the snapshot of these rankings, having you that far ahead of Vanderbilt, tells me that there's not really much Vanderbilt can do with a win over Kentucky or a win over Tennessee to put yourself ahead of Notre Dame. So we'll see, but it could be an interesting debate if we see 3-loss Oklahoma, 3-loss Texas, maybe BYU drops another one, maybe Utah. All of a sudden, Vanderbilt could gain ground. But if I was a Notre Dame fan, I'd be much more worried about the Red River bunch than Vanderbilt.
Dude, what a time for YouTube TV and ESPN to break up if you're a Notre Dame fan.
Don't get me started.
Because you're like, if we're Notre Dame, we can't watch our games on ESPN. They're all on Peacock.
Yeah.
But we want to watch what Oklahoma's doing, what Texas is doing. How do we have those all? So you got to break out the multiple screens. Hoping that those two can get things right here in the future for all of us college football fans, but especially Notre Dame fans are like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, Notre Dame's trying to watch every 2-loss team play at the same time along with their Fighting Irish, So let's help them out. If not just the greater good, we have 3 weeks, man. Can we figure this out? Because once the playoff hits, we're not going to even need the 4 box. Every game's on one at a time.
Yeah, good point. I guess I say that. I guess Notre Dame does play on ABC this weekend, but for the most part now, they're not going to be on that family of networks, but I digress. For all of us figured out YouTube TV and ESPN, but Kato, I'm excited to watch what Notre Dame here is down the stretch. Now, one of Notre Dame's best wins on their resume, I think you could argue the best win on Notre Dame's resume, is they won USC. Now, USC, should they go 10-2, I think they have the most boom potential. All right, Iowa, lose to Oregon. Committee says, don't worry about it. We'll just drop you 1 spot. It'll be our little secret. You get a pass here, be at 21. Then they go to Oregon. All right, so that stretch of those 2 games, I am so fascinated to see how the committee chooses to move USC, especially after this weekend. And then to add on to that, remember, USC, they have the head-to-head over Michigan, who we'll talk about here in a second. But let's just say that Michigan keeps winning. Michigan's almost like this wave I feel like that USC can keep riding. As long as you keep moving Michigan up the rankings, I don't know how you put USC behind them so long as both teams keep winning. Then put yourself in this scenario, which, again, we'll get to Michigan here in a second. I don't want to jump ahead on teams. But imagine that Michigan finishes 10-2 and they beat Ohio State the last week of the regular season. and USC's got a win over them, also sitting there at 10-2. How do you leave Michigan, or how do you rather put Michigan in and leave USC out? Is that a world we could exist in? I mean, I guess anything's possible, but that to me is very, very intriguing as it stands right now. Now, I also think you look at USC, the losses, Notre Dame loss isn't like a bad loss, quote unquote. The loss to unranked Illinois makes you feel a touch uneasy. But I do think overall, if you were to put USC into the college football playoff, they'd be a tough draw. Like the fact you have to cover both Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, and you get Jade Maiava now with even more reps under his belt in Lincoln Riley's offense. Also, don't look now, USC's running the football, 200 yards a game on the ground with a walk-on running back, and they won King Miller. USC is one of those teams that I think is getting hot at the right time. And so if you go get a win at a top 10 Oregon, I don't have any other questions about what USC could be here finding their way in. I think they'd get some breaks. But ultimately, I think they would be a really intriguing discussion for the committee should they find themselves at 10-2. Do they have the juice to jump in Oklahoma or a 10-2 Texas? Probably not, in my estimation, by nature of how these rankings currently sit. But the breaks I think you would depend on getting if you're USC. 10-2, again, you're not a sure thing, but I think the confidence would be there should you find yourself in at 10-2. So, Cato, I know we're going to get to Michigan here in a second, but just thoughts on USC, man. They've been playing, it feels like, better and better each week. Even the Notre Dame game I don't think is a bad loss in terms of how it looked. You have a kick ran back on you. You have the trick play that goes south because of the weather with Mekhi Lemon. USC, I think, has been pretty impressive here. So the fact they got Iowa and at Oregon to wrap things up, and they'll play UCLA, obviously. Some meat on the bone for USC to make some moves, plus Michigan continuing to win.
Yeah, I think that Notre Dame loss is just a weather loss, and we'll talk later in the show about the weather impacting potentially USC again this weekend. But the biggest thing I'm looking at if I'm a USC fan and just tracking them for the playoff, they're in a similar situation as Texas, obviously, where likelihood to make the playoff increases depending on how many ranked and good opponents you have, which double-edged sword, right? It's, hey, if we went out and do our thing, maybe we can make the playoff, but it's because you're winning against good teams. Biggest thing I'm looking at for them, though, is how much are teams dropping in gaining ground in the rankings week to week, because that's what it's going to come down to. For USC, they went up 2 spots with a win over Northwestern. That has some to do with them beating Northwestern, and it also has to do with Louisville, Virginia, Iowa all losing. Mm-hmm. So they need I think they just need certain breaks to happen in the rest of their schedule and the rest of just the college football schedule to go from 17 up. But you could very easily see it happening. I mean, if you're talking about a Texas Tech team that goes up 2 and a Miami team that goes up 3, and that's way different wins. A win against Syracuse, you move up 3. If they get win against Iowa, what does that mean for USC? Even if everyone stays the same, all of a sudden is USC jumping to Georgia Tech? Are they jumping a Miami? Are they jumping a Vanderbilt? I think it will be very interesting to see if they win this weekend. They're favoring the game they're supposed to win. If they win, how much do they rise? Because if they rise 3 or 4 spots, all of a sudden you beat Oregon and you can rise even more spots. If I was USC, I'd be tracking the little trend where you can see how many teams are moving up and down. BYU drops 5 spots. Virginia drops 5 spots. How much can other teams drop and how much can we rise is what I'm looking at if I'm USC. And I don't think there's too many breaks that need to go their way just based on the Texas and Oklahoma that obviously are going to have their back against the wall this weekend when you have the ACC doing what they're doing right now and being unpredictable, and there's some teams between them and that top 12. So USC fans, man, I'm tracking the rising and falling action of the week-to-week rankings, and don't have to squint necessarily to see you taking care of business and getting yourself in the playoff picture.
I think they've got 2 things going for them with the schedule. One is just it's probably going to be 2 potentially ranked wins for you with the Iowa game and the at Oregon. So if you finish 10-2, you like that. But Cato, we've seen with this committee, they like the eye test.
They do.
They like the eye test. So you got 2 teams here in Iowa and Oregon that like to run the football. What's been the biggest question since Lincoln Riley has gotten to Los Angeles as the head coach? Hey, how tough is your defense? If USC trots out there against Iowa and Oregon, and big Jakeem Stewart, big Thanos is out there making stops up front, they're holding Oregon and Iowa to, I don't know, maybe not less than 100, but less than 120. They just proved they have something in that front 7 to stop the run. I wonder if Ivan Mizell and the boys in that committee get together and say, hey, listen, I know we like the eye test. USC is passing that with flying colors as of right now. Maybe, just maybe, those ranked wins, if they look good in that front seven, you say, USC, get on here, club playoff, man. I know you got to have a couple breaks, too, with Texas and OU, but there's a lot of juice there, I think, for USC to impress the committee. So it'll be fun.
Eye test will be very key because I think the eye test is what's keeping a team like Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma ranked ahead of a one-loss BYU despite them having 2 losses. So if they can win, USC with 2 losses can win with some style points against Iowa, all of a sudden that's where you do pass a one-loss Georgia Tech in the rankings. That's where maybe you could pass a one-loss BYU in the rankings in the future. Like, that is where the difference is in the eye test. That's when you get to your rankings, get to your teams, whatever you want to call it. Once you get to that point where you're willing to put a team ahead of another that has more losses, that's just full eye test. That's us saying, okay, Notre Dame, you have 2 losses, but we think you are better than BYU. We think you are better than Utah. We think you're better than Georgia Tech, like, despite them only having 1 loss. So I think that'd be a very interesting part of this too, is how USC wins if they win these next couple games. I think that'll be huge.
Love it, man. Love it. That big Michigan win, obviously looming large for the folks out in LA. Let's talk about Michigan here really quick. If Michigan goes 10-2, I think you just got to have some faith. Now, me personally, I'm a man of faith. It's extremely important to me, the most important thing about me, and that's exactly what I think it would take when you look at Michigan. Because for Michigan, if they go 10-2, what does that mean? They beat Ohio State. Right now, Michigan's sitting there at number 18 in these second rankings. It's a long way to go to get up to 10. It's a long way to go. So you'd have to have the faith of, listen, I can't all the way explain it. I can't necessarily walk you through all of the exact semantics of this and how this would work, but I do not see a world where the last thing the committee sees is Michigan finding a way to yet again beat the number 1 ranked Ohio State team with Bryce Underwood out there probably elevating a little bit. I have no idea in the world how that committee would look at that Michigan team and say, you just beat the number 1 team in our rankings. Sorry. No go, Michigan. No go. And this isn't me, because I feel like for all these teams, I keep saying they got a chance, they got a chance, they got a chance. You go 10-2, you got a chance in modern college football. But think about this. If Michigan does find their way to 10-2 and they do beat Ohio State, think about what would be true of them. Truth number 1, the old Michigan traits are absolutely there. You're not stopping this Ohio State offense with a subpar or average or even just like good defense. You got to be on your P's and Q's. And also, I don't think that you're going to go ahead and win a shootout with Ohio State. That's the first part of this. So the old Michigan traits of really good defense, run the football, control the game, control the clock, that would be in play here if you get 10-2 Michigan. Then probably the most important part of this, you get enough from Bryce Underwood. And Cato made a great point a couple of weeks ago. We haven't really seen Bryce Underwood cut it loose yet and have that big, like, 300-plus yard game that gets you super excited about him just launching missiles downfield and the passing attack looks super modern. But you have seen in different spurts, oh, that was kind of creative, Chip Lindsey. Oh, that was kind of a little more nuanced. We ran the football well, so we got the play-action game working there against Washington. I believe it was against Wisconsin. I want to say Bryce went for north of 250. Like, you've seen some throws and some games from Bryce that kind of make you say, all right, I see it. I got to squint a little bit, but I can see this bigger picture starting to come together. So maybe, just maybe, to Cato's point, Michigan's out there playing a little bit of possum. No, Bryce only threw for 86 yards against Michigan State. Oh, woe is us. We're, old Michigan, we're a one-trick pony. Just run the football. Hopefully Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes stay healthy so we can beat y'all, and they get the game against Ohio State. It's Chimp Lindsey, Santa style. Pulls out the bag, empties out all the toys and goodies for a Bryce Underwood, and you got McCauley downfield and maybe some other weapons step up. Maybe, just maybe, that's in play, because I think it's going to have to be in play should Michigan find their way to 10-2. Again, I think it's going to take a heavy dose of faith to see the Wolverines get to 10-2 and be in the college football playoff, going from 18 up to 10. But Cato, I think it would happen for the pure point that I don't know how you leave a team that just beat your number 1 team in your rankings out of the playoff when they're within the teens right now. Your thoughts on the Wolverines, who you pick now to be in the college football playoff in the preseason. So flowers, carnations, all that sent your way if this happens.
Yeah, I think that obviously I'm rooting for this to happen to be right. But I think you talked about, I think Michigan's playing a little possum heading into this Ohio State game, trying to show as little as possible, just win games. I do think, though, the next 2 weeks, you want to win with some style points just to make sure you're going up in the rankings properly. So if you do beat Ohio State, it's a less drastic jump for the committee to make if you get that win, if that makes sense. Like, hey, USC, 2 spots up with a win over Northwestern. You're playing Northwestern this weekend. Like, does that bump you up 2 spots? Yeah. If you beat the brakes off of them, though, maybe we're up 4 spots. Take care of business the week after that. Maybe you get closer to sniffing that 15 range in the rankings, and all of a sudden we don't have to make some drastic jump. Because I think you and many others agree that, hey, Michigan 10-2, beating Ohio State, put them in. But if like they're the 18th ranked team in the country like they are now, all of a sudden it's like, okay, like, well, we don't want to, like, are we going to just, is that what a top ranked win does for you? Like if Texas A&M, say at number 3, loses to Texas, and Texas already lost to Georgia, like, are we just going to bump them up as well? So
good question, yeah.
Very, very interesting thing to watch. But if I was a Michigan fan, if I'm in the Michigan building, I'd want to maybe stop playing as much possum and really try to win in dominant fashion the next couple weeks, in the case that if you go and beat Ohio State, it's not some drastic jump to make. I would look for a little style points from Michigan the next 2 weeks, just given their situation and being ranked a little low for a 2-loss team. You got to pass every 2-loss team in front of you, I think, to get in that mix, and style points gets you there because you're not playing Georgia. You're not playing Alabama. So we'll see. But I don't feel as great as I did preseason, but again, a lot of teams between them in that top 10-ish range that could very well lose in the next couple weeks. So we'll see.
There's some room for some carnage for sure. Like Oklahoma, we mentioned them and how dangerous they are. Like if they lose to Bama, okay, one of our losses, our head-to-heads we'd have to pass, that's out of there. USC, we mentioned Iowa and Oregon. Could USC do it? Absolutely, but those are going to be 2 pretty tough lifts. Michigan's just got one big max-out test day at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You got one single-rep squat, baby. You got Ohio State coming to your place. Load that bar up, see if you can get it up, and we'll see what happens from there. But potential for some carnage out there for the Wolverines.
Yeah, they definitely need some 3-loss teams, I think, to help them out and make things easier.
This is awesome. I just love that we're having this conversation. I love college football, man. Who would have thought? Who would have thought, huh? I guess we did. Let's talk about Miami here real quick because they're also in potential to be a 10-2 team. My first thought, Cato, when I saw Miami pop up at 15 in those rankings, ahead of Georgia Tech, number 16 team, I'm like, okay, it's alive. Frankenstein style. Like there's a scene in Step Brothers where I believe it's John C. Reilly who's being buried by Will Ferrell. He knocks him out with a shovel, digs his grave in the front yard, starts heaping dirt on him, and then out of nowhere, Will Ferrell comes out with a shovel, hits him over the head, and he goes, wait a second, I buried you. He goes, I slowed down my reflexes. Slowed down my heart rate a little bit. You just thought I was dead. That's Miami. Now, Miami, you just thought they were dead. At number 15, feels like they're pretty alive. Now, I don't love the losses. I won't lie to y'all. Number 20, Louisville. Louisville behind them, even though they have the head-to-head. Interesting. The loss to SMU is not great. Wins are nice. A Notre Dame win to your name. A USF win to your name, which is a ranked win when you got it, and a ranked win right now. I don't think they control their own destiny. Scratch that. I know they don't control their own destiny because they are not in a spot to control their own ACC title destiny. But them being an at-large bid is really tricky. You are rooting hard for Pitt right now because they knocked Notre Dame out from ahead of you, who you had the head-to-head, but it doesn't matter. You're rooting for Pitt to look awesome against Notre Dame and then be as highly ranked as possible when you play them, and then you got to go wax Pitt. Like Pat Narduzzi's talking about he doesn't care if Notre Dame wins by 100 against them this week. Miami, you got to win by 100 when you play Pitt to feel good about your chances to move up these rankings. So, Cato, I have a hard time seeing the most chaotic conference in college football getting 2 teams in. Now we have a 1-year sample size, the 12-team playoff. But last year with the Big 12, it was awesome. It was the most chaotic conference, but the most chaotic conference doesn't usually get 2 bids into the dance. So that's kind of how I feel about Miami. I still think it's going to be a 1-bid league. But Miami at 15, man, they're alive. They're alive, and they're a talented team. If they were to find their way in, they are good enough, I think, to win a game at their best. Now, we've also seen, if they're not on their P's and Q's, Carson Beck will give you the football 3-4 times, and you'll have a great time celebrating your playoff win after the fact, should you play a Miami not on their best day. But they're alive, Cato. Your thoughts on the Hurricanes with the potential of them being 10-2 with a couple of nice wins on the resume for the old boys out there in 305.
Yeah, man. This was the part of the rankings show that, like, jarred me the most. Like when you see Miami move up 3 spots after a win over Syracuse, you're like, wait, why? Like what? Like why are you jumping over? Like I get like Wake Forest losing, Louisville losing, like some of the carnage in the ACC, they by default you go up. But Georgia Tech didn't play last week, and why is Miami passing Georgia Tech? Like that's where I'm starting to be like, Windhorse, like why is that? Like what are we doing here? I think the committee is trying to set Miami up for a potential at-large bid, but I just don't see it happening. The only way they get in for me is if there's a bunch of carnage between them and Notre Dame, and all of a sudden it's Notre Dame versus Miami for the last playoff spot, and Miami has the head-to-head win. I think that's the only scenario, other than maybe just some more carnage in the ACC, and they end up in the ACC title game. Still looking unlikely. There's obviously all those teams in the mix ahead of them that have one ACC loss, the Virginias, the Louisvilles, the Georgia Techs. So, yeah, man, it was a little bit of a head scratcher when I saw them pass Georgia Tech, despite Georgia Tech not playing and them beating Syracuse. But yeah, I think unless it comes down to them and Notre Dame for a playoff spot, they're not gonna really be in the mix. I think this is the committee kind of throwing them a bone just in case a series of unfortunate events happens for some other teams and they can maybe backdoor in. But again, like I said with Notre Dame, 2-loss Miami versus any 2-loss SEC, like that's not happening. They need a lot more 3-loss teams to exist, I think, at large in these rankings to be a serious contender, because it gets hard at that point for them.
Kiddo, your boy is a trash basketball player. Like rec league, your boy's not going. Maybe they're picking me for like hops or hustle or like, a little bit of juice running down the court. But like, I'm not a shooter. I'm not a scorer. I'm not good at basketball. But you know what I am? I'm a good freaking rebounder, dude.
Oh, yeah.
I can find the right spot to jump up and grab that thing off the rim. Miami's in a good spot to catch the rebound, I think, right here at 15. It's like, are they going to score on their own? Are they going to be a corner 3 kind of team here and just rip your heart out? Probably not. But if that shot goes off the rim the right way and Notre Dame loses and Oklahoma and Texas and maybe Vanderbilt loses and maybe Utah, like if there's a couple of things that break the Hurricanes' way, it would be a very impressive rebound, but they're kind of in that spot right off the block, right off the paint, where they could maybe jump up there and grab that and have a rebound effort to get in the playoffs. So a lot has to happen, but I'm with you, man. If they get some carnage, that's the only way I see this happening.
Yeah, they could maybe clean some glass here, but I think ultimately, despite all of the carnage that could unfold and they could find their way in the playoff conversation, they still have to get over their worst enemy, which is the month of November. So they gotta win. Like they haven't shown us. Yeah, sorry, Miami.
No, I love it.
Sorry,
true.
Miami
it's
fans.
True.
You
100% true.
You don't have a good record in November the last couple years, and we still have a couple more weeks in the month. So I don't think there's any guarantees on their schedule as far as wins. They have to take care of business themselves, I think, before worrying about what's on everyone else's plate, because they haven't been able to win in this month very well and very consistently, and that's been their Achilles heel. So we'll see. Pitt coming up.
At Pitt, right?
Yeah.
I mean, cold weather. Like
NC State this weekend, who's been a little bit of a grim reaper in the ACC. Like you can't count them out necessarily. But, yeah, November, handle your business, Miami, and see where you go. But if you don't handle your own business, none of this is even a conversation. You're not even the proverbial basketball game we're talking about to get some rebounds. You're just watching from the bench.
Tough, man. Tough. We got a couple others I want to hit on really quick, Kate. We don't have to go full chop it up mode on these guys, but like Vandy at 14, they got a little bit of meat on the bone rather with Tennessee being ranked, and they'll play them at the end of the year. We alluded to that. I still think they probably need some help to get in. Some of these teams need some help to get in as well, but like in terms of what Michigan has in front of them, what Ohio State, what USC has in front of them, what if Georgia Tech finds a way to win the ACC, they would obviously be ahead of Vanderbilt. Like Vanderbilt at 14, I feel like they're a little bit stuck. Same feeling I have with Utah. Like Utah's boxed out by both BYU and Texas Tech. They're 2 losses. They're both ahead of them. I don't think they're going to probably drop the rest of the way. I mean, I guess Cincy could beat BYU. The point I'm trying to make is I think that the ranking for both Utah and Vandy is nice, but I don't really have a ton of stock right now into either of those teams making the college football playoff, barring some help that they would need to get.
Yeah, I think that with those two teams, you just need as many 3-loss teams as possible to exist. Like you need 2-loss carnage. You need Texas to lose this weekend. You need Oklahoma, and even then, like Texas still has the head-to-head over Vanderbilt. So what do you do with that? I think these teams are in just the awkward positions, and with some of the Miami movement we were talking about and Texas Tech movement, like I think unfortunately for teams like Utah and like Vanderbilt, you're kind of in that spot to where if you get a big win and you're beneath them, could very easily see them getting jumped. And if you lose and you're like a one-loss team or whoever, you're not going to fall below Vanderbilt. So I feel like they're weirdly like the cut line in the rankings, and I think they're in a position to unfortunately, like along with what's on the rest of their schedule, get very easily jumped. And if a team loses and has a respectable loss, the committee is like respectable loss will drop you a spot or 2 spots, but we're not going to drop you below like Vanderbilt and Utah. So I think it's an unfortunate spot that there's not a ton of places on the rest of their schedules to make some noise, but two great seasons right now thus far for those teams. And if you don't make the playoff, you'll play in a Sweet Bowl game, hopefully. So kudos to them.
Yeah, sorry I cut you off there. I was going to say Vandy in the top 15, dude. Like, are you kidding me?
Who would have thought, man?
Vandy, we turned. Diego Pavia, I guess. Diego Pavia is like, we're moving to the freaking national championship. We talked to him media days, but playoff Pavia would be something to behold. But looks like, again, back to what Cato and I are saying, probably need a little bit of help to get in there. Cato, let's wrap this thing up, brother, with our predictions for Week 12 of the college football season, man. We got a couple of takes for you, but we always start this segment off with the upset we're tracking. Do you have an upset you want to call out, right? Or are you just tracking one as of right now? I want you to go ahead and bat lead off for us here and get the people going a little bit.
Yeah, so I mentioned it in the previous segment, and if you look at my track record the last couple weeks in upset watch, picked Iowa last week. We were close. Week before that, I picked Miami against SMU. Got that one on the head.
Check.
I'm going back to the well. It's November. I'm going to Miami. I'm sorry. Minus 14.5. NC State, the Grim Reaper, just beat Georgia Tech. Has a bye week to not rest on their laurels. They were also a team that who else did they beat? Virginia, right?
NC State, yeah.
So they're the Grim Reaper.
Game.
they're the Grim Reaper of the league. They're the last team you want to play in the AC right now, personally. I don't know if they win. 14.5 though. Miami in the month of November and NC State on this heater. Run me that for upset watch, man. We have all eyes on you in Coral Gables. The home field advantage doesn't make me feel so strongly that their quarterback, CJ Bailey, can't go in there and take care of some business. I think they have the leading rusher as well in the ACC right now, does NC State.
Hollywood Smothers.
Great name.
Awesome
Fantastic name. They're not a bad offense. Like, they will score some points in a hurry. They're obviously scrappy enough to beat Georgia Tech, which I think is the most impressive win you can get in the conference at the moment. Yeah, give me them covering. Can't put winning past them right now. The NC State Wolfpack, that is. But another team that I'm just watching, not feeling great about it, but just watching, and they're kind of similar, honestly. Arkansas taking a trip to Baton Rouge. Same thing goes. Dynamic quarterback that could potentially put some points up and make a game interesting. That's kind of what NC State and Arkansas have in common here. Plus, Arkansas, man, they can't win, man. They've played in so many close ones, but they've lost so many games in a row that I'm kind of rooting for them to just finally get Bobby a win here and do it in statement fashion with the win over LSU. Interim coach versus interim coach.
Who's playing quarterback for LSU? I don't know. Shoot, the interim juice is good for one game. Is it good for 2 games for the Tigers? Arkansas has been working with the interim juice for the last couple. They live off the interim juice. 50 cc's of interim juice to the freaking veins. I like that pick. I mean, Miami, CJ Bailey at quarterback for NC State. Dave Doran and the boys a little bit frisky. I like that pick. Again, if you're tracking upsets at home, Cato's been swinging a hot bat. Keep a pulse on that one. My upset pick last week, I believe, was Auburn, who did not pull it off. But again, if you're talking about peppering the target, we were on the green.
It's upset watch, man. You just got to watch for it. And I think if it's a watchable game, fourth quarter, and it's close, we did our job, man. We're not calling upsets, but we're calling watches.
Dude, I'm about to call one out right now.
Uh-oh.
I'm just calling for it.
Uh-oh.
Cato, it was just Veterans Day. You kidding me? And USF as a 10.5-point favorite. They're going to make the college football playoff as the G5 rep, and everyone's excited about the South Florida Bowls and all the juice and all that. Hey, man, you got to show up. I believe it's Marine Corps Stadium in Annapolis. You got to play Navy, who thinks they're pretty good in their own right. He's got their own aspirations to win the AAC and maybe be a college football playoff team. I love America. I love the troops. I love Veterans Day. I love Navy outright. At the crib, dude. Keep your 10.5. I'm taking the mids, baby, to get it done in upset fashion. Alex Golish, we love you on the show. picked you to take the Arkansas job. Maybe that plays in here. I'll take Navy, dude, to get it done. College footballing this season. We get another upset. Just when we thought USF was the G5 rep, had it all buttoned up, Navy. Anchor in, not to take Vandy's slogan. They throw the anchor down and get it done.
This is USF's your team, man. What are we doing?
I love America, dude. I don't know.
Yeah,
bro.
no, so do I.
I don't
so
know.
Do I.
I don't know.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think Navy's option attack is just the complete opposite of USF's offensive attack,
Sure.
and I just don't think that bodes well for the midshipmen. So best of luck to them, but yeah, man, the Fighting Alex Golishes, they just have it figured out on offense, man. They are scoring so much, and yeah, I think fresh off of that Notre Dame loss too, like I think this USF offense specifically is going to look a lot closer to Notre Dame than a lot of the teams that Navy steamrolled over running that option attack to get to the record they're at right now. So I like the ambition, but I like the Bulls more.
Let's ride. Let's absolutely ride. Well, hey, Cato, I want to call one more prediction here for you, and then I want to give you the floor as well to call your shot here this week. But A&M welcoming South Carolina in there. Is it a tricky spot? I don't know. Lenora Sellers gave Alabama a quick scare. I think Texas Tech takes the light from South Carolina, dude, unfortunately. It's kind of been limping for a while here. You fire your OC. There's bad vibes in Columbia. A&M, darn near 3-touchdown favorite. It could be 24 points. Unfortunately here, I think A&M snatches the soul of South Carolina. Here's the deal, too. Payback game for the Aggies now. Last year, go to Willie B. They stormed the field and put on the SEC documentary, and it was like, man, this is awesome for South Carolina. They're the team of 2025. They were so close. Nope. A&M says we need that back. And if you're going to be at the game here, so was Whataburger, right? So November 15th, early kick, the Whataburger truck will be in College Station, Texas. I know a lot of our folks that watch this from the state of Texas, you love Whataburger. So do us. Or so do we. So do us. It doesn't matter. We're all eating Whataburger. So whether you're cheering for the Aggies or whether you're rolling with the Gamecocks, bold play by you, but make sure to drop by the Whataburger truck during your tailgate to get ready to bring home the W early with a hot, fresh Whataburger in hand. No matter who comes out on top, take your team to Whataburger. You know you'll feel like a winner every single time. You're getting 24/7 hot Whataburger in your hand, in your belly. It's a good deal. See you at the game. See you at the Whataburger.
God, I love Whataburger.
Just so good, dude. So good. What you got for us, Cato? For predictions here for you.
Yeah, so I like what you're predicting there, and it's funny because like this is kind of the month of the year where November top teams in the country might get a little stagnant, and the next thing you know, in a conference like the SEC, boom, like you take a loss on the chin, like you did last year if you're Texas A&M, like an unexpected one. I think that like Texas A&M and Ole Miss are both in a very similar spot right now where they're heavy favorites, but they're both playing teams that got the best of them last year when their guard was down around this time. So I don't see them losing this game when I'm sure all week practice point of emphasis was, remember what happened last year in this game. If you're A&M, what happened last year when you played against the Gamecocks? Ole Miss, what happened last year when you went to the Swamp? Now both those teams come to you. You're better this year. You're higher ranked. You have more to lose now if you're trying to keep that ranking. And they got caught lacking last year. So it's just, I wanted to highlight either of those games in this segment, but it's just hard to when both of those units are rolling. They're now at home and they're playing teams in a revenge spot. I think all those ingredients make it tough, but we'll see. Lenora Sellers, one of the best players in the country. Florida, maybe we have some November magic left from last year, but yeah, those two spots, tough for those two underdogs there. One, though, I like, JD, the USC Trojans. I think they keep rolling, and I think this game is huge for them, especially with the college football playoff when they're hosting Iowa. The one thing that concerns me about this game is Iowa bringing some of that rainy weather with them. I think the rain had a big reason to do with why they lost on the road to Notre Dame. Other than them being on the road, their only two losses are at the road. So them at least being at home makes me comfortable. But the rain, I think, leveled the playing field a lot in the Notre Dame game. And same for Iowa last week when they played Oregon. But right now, man, this USC offense just looks so balanced. They're running the ball well. They're passing the ball well. I think rain could take away from that and make them less balanced. But I think, especially if the elements are working in their favor, I think USC is going to look to keep rolling here. I think Iowa took some lumps last week. They'll probably limp into this game a little bit. Imagine playing in that wet, rainy, heartbreaking game that was super physical against Oregon, then having to travel all the way to Los Angeles the next week. Like, I don't love that for Iowa specifically. And I think, too, this is a great spot for USC committee-wise and optics-wise. We saw Iowa go down to the wire with Oregon. Well, if you beat Iowa by a more resounding fashion than Oregon just did, and then fast forward, you play Oregon, you know what I mean? There could be a lot of good momentum for the committee and good faith in the committee to be had with USC having some dominant performances here. I think it starts with this Iowa game. I think they win. I think they cover in. I'd watch the weather, though. If the weather is different, maybe Iowa can keep it close. But I don't know if Iowa has enough gas length left in the tank and, quite frankly, any offensive firepower in this one. And USC has showed us, both against Notre Dame and Michigan, they can at least go to toe-to-toe in the trenches with some of the best in the trenches teams in the country. I think Iowa, coming off of a beaten-up game against Oregon, I don't think they can get it done this week, and I think USC rolls.
I like that one, Cato. It's going to be a good one. Also, maybe a little bit of rain maybe in Los Angeles. I think when we did our prediction for that game, the forecast was clear. Now, though, a little bit of weather. We'll see, but I like that. I'm going to go back to one of the games of the week here. It wasn't our BetMGM game of the week, but gosh dang it was close. We're both Gunner Stockton guys. I think we see big moment Gunner again, man. I do. I know the Texas defense is awesome, but I think they'll be in a spot here where Texas won't take away that run game for Georgia completely, but they'll minimize it enough to where you look at 14 and say, hey, we need that hot Yeti beverage version of Gunner Stockton here, as you have alluded to many times on this show. We need a little bit of dressed up polo Gunner Stockton to go get us, I don't know if it's 30, maybe it's just under 40. I don't know, but I think you'll have to get something from Gunner Stockton in this spot from Georgia. I think he shows up. I think he delivers. And I keep pounding this drum, man. I think he and his Heisman prospects continue to increase and grow. And people look at number 14 for Georgia and say, that dude actually is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. A lot of love from Marcel Reed and Ty Simpson that's deserved, but Gunner Stockton is one of the best quarterbacks in his own right in that conference and in college football.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big Gunner fan. I think he's like probably the most underrated player in the country, I think, at this point, especially when it comes to the Heisman stuff, because it's not always the prettiest, but I have it down like a Red River team wins this weekend. Like, I don't know if it's going to be Texas. I don't know if it's going to be Oklahoma, but it just feels right that one of them will win. And you kind of standing on the table there for Gunner Stockton makes me lean towards it being Oklahoma, just because I think if it's crunch time and it's Georgia versus Texas and you have the ball in the hands of an Arch Manning who has looked good the last 2 weeks, but from just track record standpoint compared to Gunner Stockton in those moments that Georgia has put themselves in this year time and time again, and they've been able to pull themselves out of it. I think Texas talent-wise might match up better to Georgia compared to how Oklahoma would match up to Alabama. But I think quarterback play specifically to close out the game, man. Gunner just has all the trust in the world from me, and I'm sure the Bulldogs locker room as well, just looking at how they've been rocking the last couple weeks. Oklahoma, on the other hand, though, if that hand of John Mateers is feeling good and we can see Oklahoma, or I guess Alabama, you'd say, finally have the run game not working actually hinder them winning a game in a major way, then all of a sudden I think that one gets a lot more interesting, and we could see Oklahoma pull it out. And like we mentioned before, this is a desperate team. They showed a ton of desperation. John told us about that desperation after the Tennessee game, coming off of a bye, rest for that thumb. Maybe they come into this spot and they're just as desperate as they were against Tennessee, trying to fight for their playoff lives, and their quarterback's hands feeling better, and maybe they can finally exploit the weakness of Alabama against them, because they are great at stopping the run and just a great defense in general. That's maybe the one, after talking it through with you, I'm leaning towards maybe Oklahoma can get it done if I had to pick one of the two, because I feel like one is going to happen. So I guess in that vein, maybe the Sooners get it done this week, man.
I like that, dude. Also, Oklahoma, one of the best run defenses in college football. So if you're already not great at running the football against other teams, and you got one of the best run defenses coming to your place.
Off of a bye with a mastermind. Come on. I don't know. Could be it.
Our Mason Thomas, we'll see what he is when it comes time for that game to be played. But you think, I believe, last I heard he was trending towards being healthier. So TBD on that. I like that, Cato. My daughter's the guest picker for us this week. My daughter is 1 year old as of this upcoming Saturday. She picked both Texas and Oklahoma to beat Bama and Georgia. So she's in lockstep with you. She's taken both of them. We had the sticky notes out, and she crawled to them over the course of those 9 games she's picking. So she's riding with you. She's got the Red River juices flowing this week, dude.
She knows what's good. She's a ball knower. She came into this world a year ago knowing ball, and she'll leave this world knowing ball because it's in her blood. But, yeah, man, that's the safe pick for her on the board. We have a lot of games, and if you think at least one of them is going to be a winner, just split it in half, man. She knows what she's doing. I'm not going to speak on the records of others we've seen on the board as far as guest pickers go, but I like her chances as far as not finishing on the bottom. She knows ball.
The bar has been set nearly as low as it can be.
High and low.
Yeah. There's a really good variance of the top and the bottom of that crop. Any last takes you want to get out there, Kato, before we send the people off into their Week 12 weekend?
It's November. Bet wisely. That's what I'll say. There's no such thing as a lock, especially after you and I thought that with Washington surely covering against a terrible Wisconsin team would be a lock. Yeah, Wisconsin wins outright. Maybe I take them covering against Indiana. I don't know. Just bet wisely in November, guys. It can get dangerous out here.
Don't trust yourself in November, dude.
Don't trust the man in the mirror.
Golly,
or woman in the mirror, depending on who's betting. But yeah, man, I might retire. Till rivalry weekend. Just get a hard reset. I'm just kidding, BetMGM. I'll still be on I'll still be on the app. But
exactly.
Just with more wisdom after last week. I forgot it was November last week. That's on me.
Dude, I did too. I bet Washington and I bet Indiana to cover. In fact, neither of those happened, but so it goes. Kato, great stuff as always, man. Glad that people got to hear from the boy today talking about the 10-2 chaos and the takes, man. A lot of great stuff across the board, so appreciate you making it all go this week, brother. Great stuff. That's the man, Caden Smith, the ones, the twos, the mic, the feedback when it comes to the 10-2 chaos, as well as the predictions for Week 12. We appreciate y'all making this show what it is. I'll say it one more time. Savor this now. Cherish it. It's not that long from now. We'll be in the cold, bleak reality that is the offseason. Until that happens, though, we will talk college football all the way up into that. Actually, we'll talk college football during that as well, so make sure you're subscribed here. For myself, Judy PicKell, appreciate y'all, love y'all. We'll keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all.